Hey guys, Chris Dorry here. Today I'll talk about why I think Jake Lloyd's production will reduce in season 2021. So to take a look at Jake Lloyd and what I'm thinking about if I'm looking at him from a fantasy and supercoach perspective. So looking at his recent durability, what's he done? So 2016, 22 games, 2011, 21, 22, 22, 17. So basically one game missed in 5 years of home and away seasons. So what can you expect? You can expect 22 games, more likely than not. Possibly misses a game, but in terms of durability, A+. You'd expect him to play 22 games or be one of the most likely to. So that's a real positive. But in terms of averages, so this is the query here. So I think he'll be reducing back, and here's why. So I'm looking at a Braden Campbell. So he was outright the best kick in the 2020 draft, and for me, coming into the competition, year one, he's a top 3 kick in the competition. So that might sound like an overstatement, but if you believe it's an overstatement, well, clearly you haven't seen Braden Campbell kick. So he's someone where he's played most of his footy as a midfielder and forward, but he can certainly play in defence, and by moving him into defence, that's actually going to unlock his game, in my opinion. And in terms of taking the kickouts, I would give Braden Campbell the kickouts over Jake Lloyd. And I would do so with absolute conviction, where that's exactly how he needs to be used. Campbell has got a burst of speed, but it's his kicking which is phenomenal, where he can launch at 60, but with absolute precision. So that's absolutely sort of how I would be looking at him. And as a result, just based off that alone, Jake Lloyd's production, if that was to occur, which Campbell, I would be expecting, if he does play in defence, would be taking some kickouts. How many, we'd have to wait and see, but that's certainly a storyline to follow. And then you've got a Jordan Dawson, where he's someone where my belief is he's a top 10 kick in the competition. And again, I prefer the ball in his hands over Jake Lloyd. So Lloyd's a phenomenal user, but Dawson, for me, having the penetration, he's got the hurt factor. I just really like the ball in his hands as well, out of defence, in terms of the drive he can generate. So I would be giving even Dawson a higher proportion of kickouts even to Jake Lloyd also. So they're some of the things to look out for. And then you've got a Will Gould. So he's someone where he's coming into his second season and he was ready to go last year. But again, he's another good kick. A lot of people might not realise that about him. Big body, can play key position, but is more of a third tall for the purposes of AFL competition. Although he could play tall if he wants to. But yeah, he's someone where, again, all 3 of these guys, they have genuine 60-metre kicks and they can use it really well. So if all these guys are playing together, there is a substantial risk factor that Jake Lloyd's kickouts will be reducing this year. So, and given his, what I would term outlier seasons in 2020, both in fantasy and supercoach, which I think really what you'd be expecting, even if his kick-out numbers were to stay constant, I'd still be expecting somewhere more so around that 2018, 2019 sort of numbers in both formats. But if his kickouts do drop, which is what I suspect, well, even these numbers, I think he could even end up a bit lower than that. So that's something to watch. So, but with that said, if you don't pick Lloyd, well, you're missing out on what looks like a pretty probable, I guess, top 6 defender would be a reasonable claim. In terms of, I would imagine both total points and on averages, I would say he gets in there. So, but what my plan would be in both formats, both in Supercoach and AFL Fantasy, I don't plan to start Lloyd in either. Certainly not in Fantasy, given you've got the extra trades, but I don't plan to start him in Supercoach either. I don't see him as a genuine captain option this year. And yeah, I think his price, given I think his average is quite overinflated, I do think there'll be quite a drop in his price. So I think he's going to be a great upgrade target, and is someone that, given his durability, given his consistency over time in terms of scoring output, I would absolutely bring into my team. But with that said, I do believe his production will drop away. So yeah, that's Jake Lloyd for you. So before I conclude this video, I thought I'd go through some subscriber goals. So once I hit 700 subscribers, I'll release an AFL Fantasy and Supercoach Keepers ranking from the 2020 AFL Draft. And in that video, I'd be talking about basically, I guess, the risk factors behind selecting particular players. What are their upsides? What's their potential sort of scoring production? What sort of, I guess, length of career would be possible with a lot of the players? So That'll be a pretty comprehensive guide potentially, so you definitely want to get me to 700 subscribers. From there, once I hit 750, I'm happy to release a sample rookie structure for AFL Fantasy and Supercoach. So, and then from there, once I hit 800, I'll release an AFL Fantasy team for 2021, and when I hit 850, then I'll release a Supercoach team for 2021. So, with the rookies, I think you'll find that my rookies will be competitive really with any team out there. And then you'll find in probably Fantasy and Supercoach, you'll get a bit of context in terms of how I include my rookies and how I form the players around them. But you'll probably also find there's a few uniques and probably a few uniques that might be common in some teams but might not appear in mine. So I guess it would just give another perspective from someone who I guess isn't recognized in the fantasy or Supercoach community and might have a few alternative views perhaps on some talent. So yeah, I look forward to hopefully getting the chance to produce those topics for you in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Give me a like if you liked this video, and yeah, let me know in the comments section below. Would you like some more Supercoach and AFL fantasy content? And if so, what would be some topics of interest? And yeah, let me know. Will you be starting Jake Lloyd in your team? Because there are viable reasons really for and against. So that'll be interesting to, I guess, after this video in particular, with a bit of, I guess, a unique context or a unique point of view, how maybe that's changed your thinking a little bit. So that'd be interesting also. And remembering my subscriber goals, well, make sure you get subscribed, let your friends know about my channel, and anyone in the fantasy and Supercoach communities get behind me, because I am, in the lead up to the season, willing to produce some more Supercoach and AFL fantasy content if there's a sort of unique sort of take that I can provide that's a bit different to some of the other voices out there. So thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next video.